Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Nightlight Part 2. We have another terrific show lined up for tonight with a return guest and her new book on vampires. On the 30th, we'll have a new guest to Nightlight talking about werewolves and other cryptids. So we're kind of going through some kind of horror phase before Thanksgiving. I don't know if there's like some kind of subliminal connection between eating people and Thanksgiving, but that's how it just worked out. But tonight we have Dina Rae for her third appearance with us. We discussed her Crowns and Cabals a couple years ago, and she is out with another fascinating horror, biblical scholarship, love story, history, political thriller combo. It's a little bit of everything. Dina's new book is entitled Peacocks, Pedestals and Prayers. It's available on Amazon, and you can learn more about Dina by going to her website, conspiracycrackpot.com. Hi, Dina. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome. We're glad you're here. And I'm really impressed with Peacocks, Pedestals, and Prayers. I think, yeah, and Crowns was an excellent book too. So I think we'll be able to do a little bit of overlapping of both books, but it's really a captivating topic. So,
thank you.
Thanks for writing it. Okay, so let's look at some of the general ideas behind your book. It starts off with corporate advertising. So is there something evil about advertising? Into like some subliminal messages, and it's kind of set the stage for many of the main settings of the book.
Oh, absolutely. Advertising is kind of a massive way, a massive act of persuasion, and obviously the goal is to get someone to buy your stuff, and whether they want it or not, whether they need it or not, whether the product works or not, none of that seems to matter. And our advertising, our forms of advertising keep morphing into more and more different ways to try to inundate somebody with something. I think the newest way is, I guess it's always been around, but it's even more in our faces now, is this whole social media influencer gig. How do you get a gig like that? You just post a picture of yourself if you're famous wearing something, and oh, I just love my Gucci watch or whatever you're wearing, and then bam, you make millions of dollars, and you know, the item is a top-selling item. And of course, there's still good old-fashioned commercials, good old-fashioned print ads. What inspired me the most with this book is years ago I had a journalism class, and we were going over subliminal messaging. And at that time, Absolute Vodka was real popular, and they had a famous ad with the bottle of Absolute and then the bottle of ice next to it, and the word sex was written in the ice cubes. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I don't.
That was kind of that's just, you know, one of the many words that are written in ads that look like photographs. And then we, of course, we get into backmasking, which is when you play a song back. Yep, exactly. And you know, probably the most famous of all that, I don't even know if it's true, but Charles Manson would play the White Album backwards, especially that song Helter Skelter, and that inspired him to start a race war and go on a murder spree back in the 60s, 70s era around. You know, that always was interesting. And then ironically, the song Stairway to Heaven, which seems like a very spiritual song, is supposedly, if you play it backwards, an ode to Satan.
Okay,
so,
well, I lost all my albums in one of the floods, and I can't do it with CDs. So, can that still be done?
With CDs, I don't know. Why not? You can go backwards on a CD, right? Why couldn't you somehow, as you're going backwards, have audio to that? I mean, I don't think it's a button that you could press, but we can all press a button to go backwards.
Are there still subliminal messages in the movies with the flash popcorn or something? And
oh yeah, with the the histoscope flashes of images, and then of course there's product placement again, where movies have become ads, like famously E.T. with the Reese's Pieces in the movie. That was a good deal for Reese's to pay that fee. So you start to wonder, is anything just picked because that's what the writer wanted, or that's what the director wanted, or is there something nefarious about every single TV show, every single movie we see, every book that we read? Definitely not mine, but are people using products for money instead of just that being part of the artistic process?
Okay. So the evil CEO of what you call the evil empire is Andal. Let's talk a little bit about him. He's A pretty bad guy.
He is one of the watchers that either, depending on what scripture or sacred writing that you read, he's one of the fallen angels or he's one of the watchers. He's a minor angel that was banned from heaven. But which is why I picked him, because I didn't want to do something about Azazel, which so many other people have done. I wanted, just kind of like a fresh type of character. And he is he is supposed to be cursed, and he is with enchantments. He's resolves enchantments, which means if you're into witchcraft, and I'm not, so all of this was looked up prehand. To resolve an enchantment is, believe it or not, I'm thinking enchantment might be a spell. To resolve would be like to figure it out, right? Or to, like to resolve something. Nope, not at all. If you look it up, it's a term that's quite popular with witchcraft, and it means to control people, which is what he does in his advertising agency. And he, more specifically, in witchcraft, it is to control soldiers to do your bidding, which is what he is on earth to do.
And speaking of these subliminal messages, and Eve, one of the characters, does see the one of the gadgets that he does use, but he also can read people's thoughts. That's a pretty unnerving behavior.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just like a continuation of the subliminal messages.
Absolutely. And they're saying now with, nanotechnology that might be possible in the future, which, opens up a whole nother show, a whole nother rabbit hole of how do you get people to ingest these nano technologies.
Okay. Now we'll get to that maybe in the second hour. But some of the other characters you introduce, like Eve Easterhouse. Okay. No, go ahead.
Again, Eve Easterhouse is the heroine of the story, and again, her name was deliberately chosen from Eve in the Bible, who
it's symbolic,
was and Easterhouse, Easter, in
renewal
this case, right? Exactly. So I chose the names to give it a religious flavor.
Okay, and Julia and Belle Julia is her sister, and Belle is Julia's daughter.
Yes.
And when we first are introduced to Eve, she is just getting paroled,
right.
Which we will bring that up in a little bit. And we do learn of her mom and brother. There's Claire's one of the co-workers. Okay, and then you get this Marcus character that schleps around saying, "Yes, master." And it's kind of like Guillermo and Nadia. He's like this kind of like accidental vampire that's really he's incompetent.
He was somewhat patterned.
He better not be based on me either.
No, not one bit. No.
Okay, good.
He was somewhat patterned after Renfield in Dracula. So he's just a real groupie, so to speak, and a wannabe, which I think a lot of people are.
But when he is an interesting character. There's I don't people could make little connection to what we do in the shadows, but he is a little bit of a comedic character in the book.
Yeah.
And you also have the Father Sardinelli.
Yeah, the priest. You can't have vampires without a priest, right?
Right. And wait, where is okay there? Just found it. And I think he had a really interesting description of Father Sardinelli. Let me take a second to read this. Father Sardinelli remembered the beginning of his career as a priest in a small town outside of Florence. Since boyhood, the Catholic Church left him psychological scars that would never heal. Despite his resentment, he submitted to the wishes of his mother and became a Catholic priest. After years of second-guessing his faith, he traded his Catholicism for the Yelizism. The religion allowed him to witness and interact with celestial beings. As much as he enjoyed seeing the paranormal, a gnawing voice inside his head questioned the morality of it all. The same voice tried to use logic to prove how his new religion could never have existed without God, yet the priest chose to ignore all these signs. Seeing the charms and magic of the angels gave him the spirituality that he had always craved. I thought that was a really good look at who he was and his motivations.
Yeah, I don't want to be too hard on him for leaving the Catholic Church, but I think a lot with my book, and there's good and evil everywhere, and including the church. You're not, just because you're in a church doesn't mean you're safe. There's evil all around us, and if we experience that enough, we're a lot weaker to be drawn into something that is more exciting, which is what happened to him. And I think that quite honestly happens to a lot of people. It's the devil can be a draw. It's a draw now for kids. You look at the Travis Scott rapper incident with the whole stage is set up like an ode to Satan, and he's been in trouble before with rallying up the crowd and getting people hurt. And now he was performing, a half an hour after people were dead right in front of him. Some people are arguing that that was a sacrifice to Satan. He's wearing a shirt where you're going through a portal, like you're going from hell. You're either going from hell or you're going to hell, one of the two. He had different satanic sayings set up all over the stage, and the kids think he's cool. You got that other rapper, I might be mispronouncing his name. I don't buy their records. Lil Nas, N-A-S, Nas or Nas. I'm
not familiar with him.
He had a real hit. He had a hit song with Billy Ray Cyrus, "Old Town Road," maybe a year or so ago, and it was like a #1 hit. All the kids were singing it at school, and he seemed to be, kind of a clean-cut type of rapper. Well, that was, a year or two ago. And then now he has a new song out. I can't remember the name, but he's in hell with Satan, giving Satan a lap dance, flirting with Satan, feeling his horns. He's openly gay. And he has a deal with Nike selling the shoes in the video, these satanic shoes, which the kids all think are cool. So do I think the kids are bad for liking these people who are openly satanic? No, I don't think that, but they're a lot more exciting than I guess our heroes, which we're not seeing enough of these days.
Yeah, but it takes us back to the advertising and marketing of a product. Right.
Exactly. And that's what they're using. They're using Satan. It used to be sex sells, well now Satan sells. That's scary. That should be alarming for everyone, and it echoes the Revelation. It echoes the Great Tribulation, excuse me.
Okay, so we can go from what you were just discussing to this Yellitism. Yelleseism, which is actually a ripoff from Yazidism, or the Yazidi religion. Okay, so can you explain those for us? Sure. Again, I took a lot of artistic liberty, so I don't want to totally throw the Yazidis under the bus. But this is based on my research. I was literally in shock that this is a legitimate religion that is in the Middle East, specifically in the Kurdish mountains. And when we were in the Middle East, before Joe Biden withdrew, we were allies with these people, which, whoa, wow, we're siding with these people? They're better than Al-Qaeda? Oh, my gosh. They're better than the Taliban? Oh, my gosh. But they're an angel religion, and they worship angels, and their favorite angel is Malak Tawas. And I might be mispronouncing that. That's in the book. I keep the name pretty similar. Malakteus, Malak Tawas. It has different spelling variations. And that's their favorite angel. The peacock is his symbol, hence the title. And, of course, he is Satan. Now, a lot of people will defend the Yazidis and say, oh, well, they worship Satan, but he's not the same Satan that the Satan in the Bible. Yes, he is. Okay, there's not like 20 Satans walking around here, okay? Yes, he is the same Satan. They have the same stories. There's all kinds of cross-references. And their services, their church services, supposedly have birds, especially, of course,
Peacocks. They have links with Zoroastrianism, one of the secret societies. They believe that Malak Taoist is not only Satan, but is God's alter ego. So God, our God, has two sides to him. So God is God, and God is also Satan, according to their religion. They believe that this peacock came from a pearl, which turned into an egg. And by the way, Malak Taoist is also called Shaitan, which sounds an awful lot like Satan. So I found the research really fascinating with this, and I of course I've never been to a Yazidi service. I don't know what they do. Oh, that's why I changed the name to Yalizi. But you know, I'm just using my imagination that if they worship Satan, this is the kind of service that they would have.
Okay. With the birds that are, there's an aviary in the church. Is this bird, flying animal imagery, is there some kind of connection with that the winged creature statue found at the that Middle Eastern archaeological site at the beginning of The Exorcist?
Oh, no.
Okay, there's no. Okay.
No, that's just coincidence. But
Oh, okay.
no, but it's mentioned several times in the Bible that birds are symbolically connected with demons. And I mean, the dove is of course God's bird, but other birds also symbolize angels, and a lot of birds eat flesh. They peck at dead animals. They peck at dead people. So there's that tie-in.
Okay, and you do use the owl in crowns and cabals in the like the nomination of the was like the New World Order leader.
Yes, the owl is definitely connected with the devil in many different types of literature. It was also the statue at the Bohemian Club, the Bohemian Grove ritual, famously in California many years ago. So the owl is connected with witchcraft. It's connected to the devil, and it seems to be the mascot of the Illuminati when they go to the Bohemian Grove and have their meetings.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just interesting. You have this avian zoo type imagery in your books.
I try.
Oh, it was oh yeah, I just happened to notice that. But so when we start looking at people are going to realize early on in your book that there is, Marcus and Andal are these vampiric type creatures. You have kind of argued the point that maybe early on in the Bible we are presented with some of the first documented cases of vampires.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. That's there's a tie-in with fallen angels and vampirism, and that starts at the very beginning with Cain. And I'm sure your listeners know the story, but in case they don't, Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel, and God asked them for offerings, and Adam gave God some kind of animal, and Cain gave God some kind of harvest. And God made it very clear that he liked Adam's offering and not Cain's. And so the story goes, we're never told, but we can infer that Cain became very jealous, and that's why he killed Adam. And we've got, in some translations, he kills Adam with a rock and hits him to death. And in other translations, he kills Adam with a knife, which I find very interesting because I didn't know that they had knives back at the dawn of civilization, but that's in there. It's also in it's either the Quran or a sacred Quran text that they both were interested in a woman named Aklima, Aclima, and she was beautiful and rich, and God supposedly thought Adam would be a better fit. So there was some boiling over jealousy for something that didn't even have anything to do with the offerings going on as well. Obviously, we'll never know. So he kills his brother. He gets the mark. He gets kicked out of Eden, and we don't know exactly where he goes because he wanders for a while, and he eventually ends up in the land of Nod. But while he's wandering, he meets up with Lilith, who is Adam's first wife. So where does Lilith come in the Bible? Lilith is never mentioned in the Bible. However, she is mentioned in ancient Jewish texts, like the Apocrypha, and forgive me, the pseudepigrapha, I might be butchering that. And anyway, they have an affair, and to prove love to each other, they split huge cuts in their abdomen, and they have the blood drip out in their hands like in a cup, and they drink each other's blood, which kicks off this whole idea that, vampires drink human blood. This is a tale that Bram Stoker also used when he created the most famous vampire ever, and he's kind of the granddaddy of what a vampire even is. And somewhere before Cain finally settles down, he gets sick of Lilith and he continues to wander. And somewhere between his wandering and his death, he receives the mark of Cain. And nobody's real sure what that means, but he's cursed. And he had 3 angels at separate times come to beg him to repent. You don't want to be on the bad side of God. And each time he refused, and they took away that he became immortal. Although he dies, but he became immortal for a long, long time. he had an aversion to sunlight. He had a couple things. I can't remember all of them, but they took away some of his human rights, so to speak, and that created the vampire. Now, not to go off too topic, but Cain is considered by some the first vampire, but he's also considered the first Nephilim. Now, how does that go? Well, again, let's go back to the Garden of Eden, and we've got Eve, who allegedly encounters the snake, and some people, again, through sacred writings and different translations and all of that, what ancient history professors do, believe that Eve had an affair. The snake is Satan, of course, and she had an affair with Satan, who is a fallen angel. So when she had Cain, he would technically be a Nephilim because of this theoretical union. So Cain's got quite a bit not going for him as far as in the eyes of God. He's maybe a Nephilim. He's definitely a vampire, and he still is able to father children. And one of his children is famously called Enoch, but it's not the Enoch. It's not the same Enoch that encountered the Watchers, or is it? That's another whole question that scholars debate. But he has supposedly the son, Enoch the evil, that he's called in some circles, and Enoch wanted to be just like him. And he taught Enoch everything he knew, which I don't know if that includes being a vampire, but Enoch built all kinds of cities, which has a Freemason tie-in because Freemasons are builders. So the whole entire beginning of time really goes off in lots of different directions when you start getting into these ancient texts that didn't make the Bible.
Yeah, and okay, we can go with Cain being the first Nephilim. Okay, that's an interesting theory. You do present what some people, biblical scholars have said. If Satan and Eve, or Satan tempted Eve, maybe he would be the first Nephilim. That's very interesting. And as we go later through the Bible, in Genesis, that is clearly defined. That's not as ambiguous as Satan and Eve having a child, but later on in the Bible, we do get Goliath, and his family is said to be giants with 6 fingers on each hand.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So,
yes.
And that's not just a one-time mention. These giants are presented, or mentioned several times in what I think Numbers as well. So there is this specific group of people mentioned several times in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that it's kind of interesting because we've got we've got, like Cain, for example, might be the first Nephilim, but he certainly wasn't the last. And something was going on, again, go back to Enoch and his discussions with the Watchers. The Watchers were either kicked out of heaven or they were sent to heaven to watch over humans. We're really not sure. We got two accounts of that. There's about 200 of them who descended on Mount Hermon, and they lusted after human women. At least we're told that at the beginning. So they had they had sex with these women. They somehow changed into human men and had sex with these women, got them pregnant, and had these Nephilim children. And they were anywhere from 9 feet to 40 feet, depending on what a cubit. There's, discussions on how long a cubit was. So they're a minimum of 9 feet tall, a maximum of 40 feet tall, and they're roaming. They're kind of taking over the earth. And what does God do about it? God doesn't want that, and he gets with Noah and Noah's wife and Noah's 3 sons and their 3 wives, and says, "I'm going to flood the whole earth, and you 8 are going to survive, and you're going to build the boat." And we all know that story, and a lot. But whenever you go to church, you're never told this story. You're told about the ark. You're told that Noah was the only decent one left. He had a pure heart, and he was a good guy, and he's the only one that believed in God. Well, maybe that's true, but the Bible isn't being 100% telling you the whole entire story, because there's much more to the story. So we have this huge flood. So in theory, we've got Noah, his wife, his 3 sons and their wives left, right? Mm-hmm. Well, no, like you just were talking about, where did Goliath come from? If God destroyed the earth and he destroyed all the Nephilim on the earth, then how do we get post-flood? How do we get Goliath? How do we get Goliath's brother, who's also mentioned in the Bible? How do we get, there's other Nephilim mentioned in the Bible. I think there's that other quote that we look like grasshoppers to them. We've got all kinds of Nephilim coming back. So how do they come back? Which, brings up a lot of more questions. Were they destroyed or weren't they? Did they have some place to hide out while the flood was going on? Did more get kicked out of heaven and more did the same thing? There's all kinds of, we don't really know, but yeah, we know that they're back. And we also know that they somehow disappear right around the reign of Saul and then David. And then we don't hear about them in the Bible anymore after that. So a lot of people think that they became kings with kingdoms. We've got the Amalekites, the Rephaites, the Anakites, even the Hittites. We've got all kinds of groups of people that end in the ITES. Well, where did they come from? And just to go back to David and Goliath, when he killed Goliath, he knew he was going to kill Goliath, but he picked up 5 stones instead of 1 stone. So why did he pick up 5 stones? He only needed 1. So, I know this is a stretch, but a lot of people think he was expecting more Nephilim to come to this battle scene, and they didn't show up. So the other 4 he didn't need at that time. Almost like he was on a mission from God to not just carry the Messianic line so we get Jesus, but also to kill these remainder Nephilim that were trying to ruin the earth again. And the first time the angels fell, they lusted after women, and then the second time appears that it wasn't the women that they were so much interested in as destroying the world and blocking the coming of Jesus Christ, starting with David and any ancestors after that.
Okay, and I did find that grasshopper passage that's in Numbers 13, like 32, and they began to disparage the country they had reconnoitered to the sons of Israel. The country we went to reconnoiter is a country that devours its inhabitants. Every man we saw there was of enormous size. Yes, and we saw giants there, the sons of Anak, descendants of the giants. We felt like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them.
So Anakim. Anakim are another breed of giants.
Mm-hmm.
And Anak actually has ties to Esau. Do you remember who Esau was in the Bible?
Yeah, he was someone's son.
Oh, wait, no, I take that back. Not Anak, but Amalek. Excuse me, Amalek, the Amalekites. I take that back. I'm sorry. But
that one's escaping my mind at the moment.
Well, that's another one of these breeds of Nephilim. And if you remember, Abraham had Isaac, the son, and then Isaac had Jacob and Esau, and he favored Jacob, and Esau kind of got screwed. And then Esau had Eliphaz, and Eliphaz had Amalek. And somehow there's a tie-in with the Anakim. Amalek is somehow they think he's the father of these new Nephilim. Again, there's no proof of any of this. This is just a genealogy from I'll cite Gary Wayne is one of them.
He's a good source.
Yeah. The table of, oh gosh, I can't remember. It's the table of something. I can't remember, but it's a source for genealogy in the Bible. And again, it gets hazy, and a lot of people are putting together what they can based on the information. We don't have all the information, and maybe there's a reason we don't have it. But anyway, that is some of the theories.
Okay, since we've been talking about the bloodlines and the sections with so and so did all this begodding that keeps going back to the house of David or Adam. Your Peacocks, Pedestals, and Prayers also gets into the importance of these bloodlines, and we do learn a little bit about the six fingers does come up, and you cover the
six fingers really comes up a lot with the Gibborim, and they're somehow connected very tightly with the Nephilim. And Nimrod, he was real famous. He's a famous character in the Bible, and many people consider him the first Antichrist. He was said to be a Gibberim. Now, I don't know if he had 6 fingers or not, but he was super tall, like Nephilim tall, and he is actually Ham, who was one of Noah's 3 sons, was his grandfather. So we've got this break-off with Esau's grandson, Amalek, Amalek, and then we also got a break off with Noah's son Ham, who was cursed actually. He supposedly he looked at his dad when his dad was drunk and naked, and then his dad wanted nothing to do with him in a cave or something. And his descendant, his grandson, I mean, that's pretty close. They would have known each other for sure with their lifespans. His grandson was an Antichrist figure in the Middle East. So he's the father of Babylonia, and he demanded people worship him, and he had the Tower of Babel. The first attempt at New World Order comes from Nimrod, and again, he's a descendant from a very holy, ancient family. So these heroes of the Bible, their offspring keep messing it up.
Yeah, and since you were like Ham is passing on a different gene than the other person. You do work in this andinite gene, and it's a little different than the mtDNA gene that is studied a lot in modern genetics. So how does these different bloodlines fit into your story?
Well, Adam and in fact all of the people back then, they lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. So if we could somehow get their body and we could study their DNA, maybe with CRISPR we could edit our own genes. And I mean, I'm not saying that I want to do all this, but I'm saying that this is an idea. If you could get hold of a Noah or an Adam or someone who lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, and you got their DNA, what do they got going on that we don't? And with CRISPR, we can now edit our genes. Now, we've got a long way to go, but they're finding more and more with this CRISPR. They've got enzymes that can add a gene. They've got enzymes that can delete a gene. I mean, who knows what the timeline is, but pretty soon, maybe we can eradicate cancer. Maybe we could eradicate MS. Maybe we can, there's so many diseases, or maybe we can live for 5, 6, 7, 800 years, almost like a vampire. And I'm just, throwing that out there. That's immortality has been the driving force for so many people, that these ancient bodies could hold the key.
An interesting concept. And another aspect of your book I really liked was, you know, I don't want to give away too much, but there's some of these bloodlines that you talk about, and it are being consistent with what's in the Bible, because there really is a lot of importance given to someone's legacy. But there's also some of these really odd stories that we don't understand today. Like Eve was born from Adam's rib. Where did
again, that could be a DNA, and then we've got the X chromosome, or what men are X chromosome, Y chromosome. Okay, well, take the rib, use your CRISPR, right, and get rid of the Y chromosome. Voila.
Like where does if Lilith is human, like where'd she come from, or other kids from Adam and Eve having two sons?
You raise an excellent point, which so many people have raised. How did we populate the world with a man and a woman, and then their two sons? We'll throw Lilith in there for the heck of it, and then still, how did we get all of these people? Well, the Bible does not say that Adam and Eve were the only ones. So they said they were the first, but how do we know that God didn't make a man and a woman? He made them in Eden. Well, how do we know he didn't make a man and a woman and put them in, I don't know, Iraq? How do we know he didn't make a man and a woman and put them in Russia? How do we know, or Magog, or Gog or Magog? How do we know he didn't put a man or a woman in Gaul or France? And on and on. We don't know. But the writer, Moses, who they're pretty sure it's Moses, chose to focus on the ones that were in Eden. And again, Moses is only one author.
I'm also saying that your characters are going through the same transformations. You're being consistent with what's in the Bible. Milton did the same thing in Book 2 of Paradise Lost when Satan encounters his daughter Sin on his flight out of Pandemonium 2, and she was born out of the left side of his head. A goddess armed out of thy head I sprung.
Right.
But it's just like all these other biblical authors also capitalize on these strange birth stories in the Bible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Milton wrote that in the 1600s. So per what we're talking about, he's a modern day writer. So I'm going to guess that he
1670s, I think.
I don't think he would. I don't think he had access to anything more than we. He's just basically patching together for his story. He's just patching together some ancient writings and filling in the blanks per se. What I'd like to know is, I've said this before, but that great library in Alexandria, what would we, if that was still around, what would we really know? That had to have so many answers to all of our questions, because little by little, more and more things show up. We got the Dead Sea Scrolls, and who knows what else is out there. But if we had that access to that library, man, we'd have a lot of unanswered questions answered.
Yeah, that had to set humanity back thousands of years.
Oh God, yes.
Okay, and since we're talking about what was written on some of the scrolls that were burned, you did talk about in your book this scroll that Eve and her family inherit. You're saying that was based on a John Dee angel script. Can you tell us a little bit about that backstory?
Absolutely. John Dee and Edward Kelly were patrons of Queen Elizabeth, and they supposedly, at least that's what they sold her, they talked to angels through a black mirror and a crystal ball, and they came up with an alphabet and names of these angels. They had a table, and they are held in very high regard among people who practice witchcraft. So you can't have an angel novel without referring to Edward Kelly and John Dee. Now they chose to call it Enochian language because Enoch it famously communicated with the angels who took him up to different levels of heaven and so forth. But the Enochian language is really a creation of John Dee.
Okay, so that part of the book is just consistent with history as well as all the references to scrolls. Probably the most famous is in Revelation. But you're very consistent with the use of your imagery, and since you were just mentioning the black mirror and the crystal ball, you do have a couple scenes of Ouija board, but to combat it has a bad influence, and the little Belle's doll, you do have that balanced with the powers of a halo. I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition of powers.
Absolutely. They show the halo is kind of an interesting accessory. It's shown today in Halloween costumes as a gold ring right over someone's head, but in artwork hundreds of years ago, it was like a humongous gold plate with all kinds of etchings in the plate that was right in back of the head.
That's the nimbus.
Yeah. But they do mention halos in the Bible. What they look like, obviously none of us know. But they sound like something very magical because only angels had them.
Well, wasn't the nimbus used to identify saints in paintings?
I'm not sure.
I thought I heard one of the tour guides say something like that. I'll have to look.
It's a halo surrounding a supernatural being or saint.
Okay. The guy at the...
So I'm not sure if it's something that you can physically touch or it's like a light that just forms. Like an aura.
Mm-hmm. It was... I was glad I had it, just made for a good supernatural force battling the freaky doll.
Yeah. Well, I do believe in demonic possession. Obviously it makes for good horror writing, but I do believe that a demon can somehow jump into either an object or an animal, especially maybe a person, such a person maybe who's not strong-minded, like Exorcist 3 with George C. Scott. I think that was my favorite of all of the Exorcists. I love that one, where the demons were in kind of body snatching crazy people in an asylum. I do believe that they can get in, and of course we're told in the New Testament that Jesus had a lot of people who were possessed by demons, and he was casting them out when he was healing people.
I think he had what Patrick Ewing was an angel in that movie too, wasn't he?
Oh, okay, cool.
I think he was an actor. For some reason, he ended up being an actor in that movie. I think it's been a long time since I've seen that. But just for a preview the show in a couple weeks with the werewolf. It's going to be. We do get. We will be talking about the influence of the bad character, kind of moving into the bloodstream of the good guy. Do you see a lot of other authors, horror authors, getting into themes like that?
No, I really don't see a lot with angels. However, I'm told I have not read anything by him, but I was told by someone that I should check out Frank Peretti. Apparently, he writes a lot about angels, but I have never read anything by Frank Peretti. So I'm definitely hoping that I stand out a little bit, because just regular vampires, my goodness, they are so popular.
Mm-hmm. They really are.
But they're a fascinating creature for sure. And actually, just a little, not to get too off topic, but when I was researching vampires, there is actually a vampire club, so to speak, in Houston. There's a real place where vampires, I didn't know they exist, but I guess people who identify themselves as vampires go to socialize. So it's, here, I got it up right here. Self-proclaimed vampire community house in Houston. It's called the Houston Vampire Court, and they have a council and everything. So there are people out there who really believe that they're vampires. And on a side note, when many years ago, I had this job for maybe a week tops, and I peddled perfume door to door, and we had to work with a partner. So I had a partner, and we'd go to office buildings, and we'd have our big old bag of phony perfumes, knockoffs of designer brands, and my partner and I would go to lunch together for the week that I worked there, and I got to know her real well, and she would wear a vial of blood, and I asked her about that, and she belonged to a vampire club in Chicago. This was in Chicago in the 90s. So this Houston, Chicago, I'm going to guess, lots of other cities, this is a thing. People want to carry out vampire traditions. They believe that if they pretend to be a vampire, that maybe they'll conjure one up.
Okay, for a Christmas gift, maybe Blog Talk will reward us for the great work we've done to build up the station, and send us to Houston or Chicago to research these vampire clubs.
You can go undercover, right?
Yeah.
I
know an orthodontist that might be able to make some fangs for me. Okay, so and speaking of road trips, some of your characters are set in scenes in Florence, Italy.
Absolutely.
What's the setting there? What one of there's the American church, and it started in Iraq. You get the Florence branch. Okay, it's kind of like a approaching a global type church, and your crowns and cabals gets into New World Order and globalism. We'll probably talk about that before the end of the show as well. But what does this the Florentine setting have to do with this kind of the worldwide church?
Well, Florence, I know you've been there. I've never been there.
Mm-hmm.
It is on my top 5 places to go bucket list of all time. It looks just amazing. It's packed with history, and of course Dante, which
Mm-hmm.
was the main reason.
There's a Dante house museum in Florence. It was closed when I was there, so I didn't get to tour that. But yeah, there is one there.
See,
The
that
beautiful
is
churches.
exactly. Yeah, it sounds like a dream vacation. You must have had a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really did. I got to see the Santa Maria Novella Church, where that's the opening of the Decameron, and Santa Croce. I think that's the one with Galileo's tomb, and the Duomo. That's Hannibal Lecter also mentions. So there's
A lot of
so we aside from Rome, I think Florence probably has a lot of some of the most prominent Catholic churches. Venice would probably be Venice, and Paris might be a couple of the other cities. But was Florence something that you thought would
I guess I
would...
probably mainly because of Dante, but like you said,
Okay.
it's a very Catholic, very beautiful churches, all of that biblical type of setting was what I was going for.
Okay, yeah, you did a nice job on that.
Well, thank you. I never been there. It was just just research and of course pictures, and maybe one day I will get to go.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm not that big. If you can put me in one of your suitcases or something like that.
You could be my tour
drag
guide.
me along. Yeah, yeah. I don't speak Italian very well. I can talk with my hands, but I can eat a lot of pasta. But I hope you get there. It's a lot of information to pack into the week that you may want to stay there. There aren't
Definitely.
a whole lot of places where you could be there for an entire week
and never get and always have something new to do.
Yeah.
We'll get your money's worth.
Oh, yeah, you definitely would get your money's worth. And you get the Uffizi Museum and some of the little hill towns in the area, and it's with the evil in a concealed building amongst such beautiful countryside. It's an interesting contrast that you portray. I want to see what, but one, as we're just getting underway talking about your book. We mentioned that Eve was just getting out of jail. She had a drug problem. Read the passage about Father Sardinelli. Even Marcus. Expressed his interest in redemption. So most of, almost all the characters in your book are regretting their involvement with the dark side. Whatever it is for them.
Well, I think that's most of us, we all have regrets, and whether it's doing something you're not supposed to do, getting addicted to drugs, whatever your vice is, whatever your fall is, that's as a Christian, to me, it is if you're truly sorry and you pray for forgiveness, you don't have to live like that. I guess is my takeaway with that. I certainly know a lot of people. Oh, go on, sir.
No, I was just going to say, I think you developed those points really well about the characters having some kind of penance, wanting redemption, and it's all kind of jumbled in there together. Same ideas, kind of all jumbled in there together. With what the regrets that they have. Are there? Do you find that there are ways out of these dire circumstances?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't. I think, and I think Jesus in the New Testament is very clear on that. A lot of people don't kind of get mad about it. Like, oh, well, if you're a serial murderer and you're Jeffrey Dahmer, and like Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, killed, I don't know, dozens of people, and then was in jail for life and professed to be a Christian and wanted forgiveness. Well, a lot of people thought that was a bunch of baloney, and maybe it was. I mean, who knows? But he ended up getting murdered in jail anyway. But if he, in theory, if you read the Bible, he was murdered in jail, and he publicly was sorry. He publicly claimed to be a Christian. If he was sincere about that, and this is where a lot of people will get mad, he would technically go to heaven. And a lot of people are like, well, that's not fair. And I get it. It's not fair. But if he was 100% sincere about what he did, and he wasn't just saying that to get some time shaved off his sentence like so many prisoners do, well, even Jeffrey Dahmer could make his way through those pearly gates. So that's what's so fascinating about the Bible. I know one of my favorite stories is the prodigal son, and the rich man has two sons, and one dutifully does everything for his father, and he works hard, and the father decides to give both of the sons, and one's a idiot, kind of a spendthrift, a drunk, all of that, and the father gives his fortune away to both of them, and the one son takes that money and invests it and does right by his dad, and the other son, I think, goes to Gaul or France and blows it all. And then he comes back, and he's so sorry, and the dad just welcomes him back open arms, even though he lost all the money, and the brother is just like, whoa, this is a bunch of you-know-what, and that story just kind of always, like, stuck with me, because I think in a sense, we're all the prodigal son. We've all done really stupid stuff. We've all wasted our resources, and if we're sorry about it, it's okay. And even the brother, even though the brother's mad because he thought in his mind he did everything right, well, he didn't love his brother as much as he should. So I guess that was my takeaway from the story. It's a fascinating story.
And the prodigal son also just screwed up without Andel's advertising campaign. But I get your point that it is a story where you can draw a lot of lessons. The duality of the sons. That's a fascinating topic in itself.
Yeah.
And the prodigal son story is a pretty familiar story from the Bible, but you're also drawing from the Book of Jubilees, which is one of the Apocrypha books. Is that right, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. What is in the Book of Jubilees that interested you? How does that tie in with your Peacocks book?
Jubilees? Well, I read it when I wrote the book. I read it, and there's a tie-in with Dead Sea Scrolls. I think it's in the Ethiopian Bible. I think Enoch is more, I heavily relied more on Enoch than Jubilees, though.
Is that, and Jubilees goes into more detail about how evil the Nephilim are?
I'm not sure. It's been a while. I haven't read it in, a couple years.
Okay. And Enoch is also survived as a sample of the Ethiopian biblical literature. So I wasn't all that familiar with Jubilees. But it's interesting that those two books are related to the Ethiopian church.
Yeah. Enoch especially, I think, is very heavily, what we know about angels is most of it's in Enoch, because he kind of acted as their lawyer when he, he kind of acted like a intermediary or a lawyer, so to speak, and tried to help them out and get them back into heaven. And he saw the good in them, even though that wasn't really the case. And Enoch was a holy man. He never even died. He supposedly just left Earth and went straight to heaven and never experienced death. So.
And I just lost my train of thought. That was great. With the Book of Enoch, it presents a lot of information about the Nephilim. We do get a good bit of information about angels. You get the Gabriel in the Annunciation scene. What about some of these guardian angels? Wasn't there a guardian angel that showed up after Jesus' temptation? Kind of gave him a debriefing.
The temptation. He did. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. He did say something cryptic to him, like I can't remember exactly what, but something like, "Now that I'm here, it ain't going to happen for you." Basically, I'm paraphrasing. He did, but no, I know exactly what you're talking about. And just to piggyback on to what you're saying, Jesus also said when he was explaining the end of days to his disciples that it would be like it was in the days of Noah. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the days of Noah, we believe that there was a bunch of Nephilim running around. So is that what he means? Does he mean it's going to be evil in other ways? That's how I interpreted it, but I guess you could maybe he just means evil in general. I'm thinking more specific, like we're going to have more Nephilim. I'm not, again, the way the Bible was translated was very, very cryptic, very almost superficial, where you don't get direct answers. It's all kind of like glazed over the surface, and maybe that's the intent, that people will continue to talk about it forever. So, but yeah, he did have conversations with demons, and he did mention that the days of Noah are going to return. So all of this is leading up to something, and I think that if you ask your average Christian, a lot of people think that the tribulation has started.
If the Nephilim and their evil ways aren't going to go away, maybe it could expedite the tribulation. I'll admit a rant I had thought about doing about a diminutive doctor, but I won't get into that since I don't want this show to be pulled down off of YouTube. But does that lead to some of your Georgia Guidestones and Agenda 21, the pharmaceutical and ag conglomerations?
All of it. UN Agenda 21 was written, in the 90s for the 21st century? 21 is the 21st century. And here we are, 2021, and you listen to some of these politicians, especially I'm gonna name names. Alexandria Cortez Alexandria
AOC.
Ocasio. Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to her. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. There is not one original thing out of her mouth. It's like she is reading from the sustainability agenda in the UN every time she opens her mouth, which leads me to believe, who's paying you? Who's paying you? Because this is not, she didn't come up with any of these ideas. They were written in the UN. The UN wants a new one world government with the sustainability goals are all about distributing wealth, are all about getting rid of private property, are all about population control and education control and control and control and control. And everything out of her mouth reads exactly like the UN. And you can only, if you really listen to her, she is especially telling. Somebody's paying her to be a mouthpiece for the UN, and somebody got her elected to do the UN one world government bidding. And, I've got my suspicions, but we're talking about end of days. Well, like Nimrod in the Tower of Babel, he tried to get a one world government going. Well, that's where we're at right now. We're in the process of trying to form a one-world government, and again, 7 leaders, 10 regions. That's the crown, and all of that.
Yeah, the 7 heads of the beast or whatever, and 10 horns or something.
Yep, that's exactly what the same reference I was exactly thinking. And, I mean, this is a, little soapbox thing. In order to be a one-world government, you have to have a one-world money. Well, I'm watching TV, and there's all these crypto commercials. For crying out, we're talking about advertising. Who do they bring in to advertise cryptocurrency but the beloved Matt Damon? Matt Damon's got a pretty good reputation. He's been married to the same woman. He's not in the tabloids for being a drunk and all the rest of it. He's got a pretty good reputation as far as Hollywood goes, and they bring him in because he's trustworthy. And he's the spokesperson now for CryptoCoin. Well, why is he pushing CryptoCoin? And Mark, here's another one. Why does the United States want to get rid of the dollar? Doesn't that kind of ruin their power base? So why are we
suspicious?
Why are we promoting crypto when the U.S. has more power if we stick to the U.S. dollar for trade? Just a lot of questions here, almost like it's sabotage because we don't want the power. We want to get rid of it because we're going to be divvying ourselves up into 10 regions pretty soon.
Are the conspiracy theorists that really made a name for themselves after 9/11? How did the World Trade Center fall when only 2 planes hit the 2 towers? There's so many other people who can explain that whole 9/11 scenario so much better than I can. But all the people who were labeled as conspiracy theorists 20 years ago, I would call them, they were factual then.
Right, prophets, yeah. There was so many things that didn't match up, and we didn't have all the social media we had back then we didn't have all the social media that we have now. Can you imagine if that happened today and the government wanted to sell one story and then you started posting on Facebook another story? Oh my gosh. I mean, back then you could have Charlie Sheen, shooting his mouth off saying, "Oh yeah, the government did it." You could get away with all that. Now you couldn't. If the government wanted to sell a certain story and you weren't on that mindset, you'd get banned.
Yeah, there's all those, if you just look back 20 years ago, there's that one reporter talking about, the North Tower just fell, and it's still standing, and then all of a sudden it falls. It's like she's reading from a script, and she was just a little bit ahead of her, a little bit ahead of when everything was supposed to be coordinated.
Right.
People were picked up on that pretty fast, and with a lot of other things that have been going on for the last 18 months, so many people are really picking up on this. There's no theory. Here it's all right there in front of us.
Right. Yeah. It's in our face. They're doing concerts for Satan now. It's in our face, as we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. In our face every day of the week. And it's almost like Satan and his minions are giving us the finger. And saying, it's happening.
How do we give them the finger back? What are some strategies?
That's a great question, because it's written that it's going to happen. And in our book, Jesus wins. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's another book floating around with a different ending. And certain people, maybe they're called the Illuminati, have a different tale, a different spin, a different resolution to the story. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there is another book floating around, another ancient text that certain people have access to, and they're being told that they're going to win. So let the games begin. I believe that we're going to win regardless, but we can't stop it. It's going to happen no matter what we do. All we can do is, keep our eyes peeled, try not to get hooked up in that mark of the beast. Hopefully try to avoid getting that, and, keep your nose clean and pray to the one and only God that you're spared.
Yeah, the Book of the Enoch was lost for 1,500 years or something like that.
Yeah, they had copies, but they didn't have the original text. They knew about it. Yeah,
Yeah, it was like, a few people, what finally became republished in, 18th century or something like that, after
it was actually translated by a Freemason. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah, and it seems like, a few people made references to it. Just say in the 14th century. But it seems like it linked. People knew about it, and it was still around, and it, like I said, people referenced it, but it, what you're talking about with this supposed, there could be another, Book of Revelation Part 2 or something like that. That might still be out there. Do you think there might be some kind of secret library somewhere in some organization that has this secret knowledge that they might be working from to maybe defeat the NWO?
New World Order, yep. Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think all of these secret societies, like the Illuminati, the Club of Rome, the Rosicrucians, of course the Freemasons, all of them, they have access to something that we don't have. They have some kind of knowledge, some kind of ancient writing that we don't have. And, maybe a different version of the Bible with a different ending, and that's what they're banking on. Or maybe they already made a pact that they can't go back with. Maybe they made a deal with the devil, and there is no if you make a deal with the devil, all of that forgiveness, all of that goes out the window.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely do. I do believe that we have an inner circle in the world, not just this country, but in the world. And there's different chapters all over the world. And sometimes they even have a global meeting, like Davos, for example, and discuss their regional progress on creating a one-world government.
Ephesians, it talks about, we are fighting the principalities of the air, and put on God's armor. Does that seem like it's quaint and it worked at one time, or do you think that is still relevant today?
Absolutely. It's put on God's armor is guard yourself with His word. I truly believe that. And I guess as Americans, we're still lucky. We can go to church and not worry about, getting executed. So at this moment in history, we're lucky. But I've seen in Illinois, I've seen here in Texas where I currently live, they're getting more and more global churches where you see a church and there's it looks like the UN, there's 30 different national flags out in front of the church. I don't know if they have any by you,
No.
But I've seen quite a few of them already, and it's like they're infusing a little bit of this religion, a little bit of that religion, a little bit of that, so it's already in the works of a one world religion. So maybe our time as public Christians is coming to an end. Maybe we'll have to go underground.
Okay. Well, wouldn't be the first time, and the church emerged stronger from coming out of the meeting people's basements in Rome.
That's true.
We're there's about 7 minutes left. What are you working on next?
Well, I'd like to do a sequel, and that's where my big plans. And
you do leave the door open for a sequel for
that is
Peacocks.
definitely my plan. And I'm definitely enjoying my writing. It is it's to me the most fun thing about it is the research. That's maybe that's kind of weird, but that's I think for me that's what makes it really fun.
Okay, cool. Where can people get a hold of your books?
Well, I am on some are on some sites, some are on other sites, but everything is on Amazon. Amazon. Dina Rae, Dinarae, and I have 8 novels and 2 shorts. You can purchase them in ebook or paperback. I also have a very strong social media presence. I'm on Goodreads. You're welcome to check me out on Goodreads. I have a Facebook fan page, Dina Rae Books. I have Twitter, at Peacock Pedestal is my handle. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram. I know I'm missing some here. I have 2 blogs, Dina Rae's WriteStuff.blogspot.com, conspiracycrackpot.home, and then you already mentioned my website, conspiracycrack.com. I have a Paperly, Freaky Times, Freaky Times /paper.li, Paperly. Oh my, I'm probably missing some things, but those are the bigger ones, and it's hard to keep up with all the social media. As I'm sure you know, there's something coming out every other month. There's some kind of new thing to sign up for, but I try. I'm on Reddit too, but I don't go on that too often. And I'm on MeWe too. I just joined MeWe. Somebody told me to join MeWe.
Okay, look for you in all those places, and still have a few more minutes left. And what about some of the ancient astronaut theorists who say the Nephilim were really just ETs? That does make a lot of sense, but also kind of get into, or would they be different species of
well, there's that whole
terrestrial,
like Zachariah Stitchin, of course, got the whole thing rolling.
12.
Yep. And he talks about the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tablets with Enki and Enlil. And there's even an Atlantis tie-in to all of this. And Plato, of course, cross-reference Atlantis as well. And that's another country or nation that disappeared from the flood, which is, all of these stories kind of start crossing with each other. The Sumerian tablets.
That's what.
Go on, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that that's what's just really fascinating about this is no matter what Nephilim or you want to go with ETs, it's all documented there. It just seems like we're using different terms for maybe the same events and people. It really is a fascinating subject.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's you start wondering, are people just calling it different things, and it's all one and the same? But the Anunnaki and Atlantis is, of course, a whole nother show. Plato famously wrote that dialogue with Cretus and Timaeus about Atlantis. And most people, I mean, a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's just fiction." Well, Plato didn't write fiction, so why did he write that then? He wasn't a fiction novelist by any stretch of the imagination. He was a philosopher. So why did he write this? It was written in the style of him being a historian. Like he's documenting this guy.
Yeah, it's based on something.
Yeah, like one of the characters, I can't remember which one, goes to Egypt and he talks about Atlantis, and it was like Plato. It reads like a documentary or like a historical account.
Yeah, so Salon.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, how about we talk about Salon on the next time? And I just want to thank you, Dina, for being a guest. We're almost out of time. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you before then. So we will see you. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.